The voice of sharing Durian ASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hello, good morning. This is Gowri.
And you're with us on Durian ASEAN's ASEAN Dailies.
Yes, that's right. And we're back to bring our listeners more news from all over Southeast Asia and some other important headlines as well.
So the important headlines actually was a very sad breaking news about the person who actually invented Nutella.
That's right. You must be very sad because I think you love Nutella a lot.
Oh, I love Nutella. I'm talking about, and I love Ferrero Rocher. I'm talking about the billionaire Michel Ferrero, in Italian, and he's the richest man in Italy. In fact, he created this confectionery empire, especially the popular spread Nutella, and he died at the age of 89.
And of course, this is very sad for all the chocolate lovers out there because everyone loves Nutella, right? And it's something that every kid loves while growing up. Even the adults go crazy over it. So it is a bit of a loss. And even for Ferrero Rocher, that used to be like the thing back then. Whenever you think of fancy chocolate, you think of Ferrero Rocher.
Yes, that's true. And I mean, it's interesting that it is a person like him could create something for kids like us, you know, when I was a child growing up in the 90s and early 2000s.
Something that all the kids all over the world could relate to and had something in common.
Yeah. And another sad news that is happening right now is Prime Minister Lee Hsien Loong. Singapore Prime Minister is currently diagnosed with prostate cancer. In fact, he published an open statement about it in his social media.
And he will undergo a surgery on Monday, which is today, of course. His office announced on Sunday that he's expected to recover fully after the surgery, in which they will be removing his prostate glands.
A lot of people might not know, but prostate cancer is quite a common cancer among men. In fact, Nick Aziz, which is the Tok Guru Nick Aziz, former Chief Minister of Kelantan, died of prostate cancer.
Which is why we also had the Movember movement last year, and we'll have it every year to increase awareness on prostate cancer as well.
It is important for men to be aware that, you know, to prepare themselves at least what to expect and how to know the symptoms of prostate cancer.
So the Prime Minister also came out in public to thank everyone for all their well wishes, for all their messages, and of course we wish him well as well for his surgery that is going to take place today. And wish him all the best. Hope he recovers quickly.
Hopefully. One thing about prostate cancer is, or about Lee Hsien Loong, is he's actually a survivor of prostate, or a cancer survivor, not necessarily on prostate cancer, because in 2002 he was diagnosed with lymphoma. It's a blood cell tumor that developed from white blood cells. So I hope he's another survivor for this one.
Definitely, I hope he comes out stronger after this battle that he's facing. So
another news that we want to report, this is happening last Sunday. So a gunman shot dead by police after a double terror attack on a cafe and synagogue in Copenhagen that claimed 2 lives. Was known to Danish intelligence, the head of the country's security. Apparently the gunman could be a terrorist.
That's right. The police just went ahead and shot him anyway. And the thing is, they don't actually know for sure if this is the guy. They just say this guy is believed to be linked to the loss of 2 lives. As we know, one it seems happened at a cafe, and the other one was at the synagogue, like you just mentioned. But there was actually no concrete evidence whatsoever. But he was believed to be the terrorist, so he was tracked down and shot by the police.
It's a bit dangerous for police to say that the suspected killer was killing because he was inspired by militant Islamist propaganda issued by Islamic State and other terror organizations. This is because, it wasn't even known yet whether he has traveled to Iraq or Syria. It's just because maybe he was a Muslim, he was a man, or he looked like one of them, but it's quite dangerous to stereotype a person to be belonging to a certain group just because they look the part, but doesn't mean they are part of the part.
Or probably they just needed an excuse, since they've already shot the guy, and they needed to link him to something concrete, something big. So the easiest thing to point at this moment is, of course, ISIS, because they are spreading their influence all over the world. But of course, like you just mentioned, we don't even know if he has been to Iraq or been to Syria. There's no records, there's no evidence. So on what grounds do they justify their actions and their accusations, saying that, oh, he actually had some links?
And it shows that, governments who are not familiar with, the conducts of ISIS might just stereotype every Muslim man or every Muslim to Al-Qaeda or even to ISIS just because they want to justify, the killing of policemen towards the suspected killer. And I want to bring in the Chapel Hill shooting as well, because they did it. I mean, it wasn't when Muslims were being killed by someone, they consider it as, just a few people, quarrel over a parking lot, rather than an atheist. The suspected killer was an atheist killing the three Muslims there. And
I have to say that it didn't become as big of a deal as when other people were shot in the U.S. It was just another feud. That's how they reported it. It was a small argument that happened
over a parking lot,
and it didn't become a big issue for the local media.
It didn't become. I could imagine it could have become like atheist state. An atheist inspired by an atheist state or secular state killing Muslims. Could it be that way?
It could be, but I guess that's not the way that they want to interpret the whole incident. But of course, even his wife actually came forward and said that this actually don't really have anything to do with religion. Although there was speculation saying that this guy actually had something against Muslims and he was totally against any religion at all, being an atheist. But she said that this was also just a feud that happened between neighbors, and it wasn't motivated by religious reasons.
I don't want to live in that neighborhood. You settle everything by guns? That's so dangerous.
Well, they can get guns at like Walmart and Target, so that makes it a lot easier as well.
Well, let's just settle in Malaysia then. Okay, we'll take a short break. When we return, more news from Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
We are back again with us at ASEAN Daily. So the first news of our second segment of ASEAN Daily is about Malaysia being ranked number 87 in dollars stashed in HSBC. This is according to Swiss Leaks. Is it like another version of WikiLeaks?
Well, it's more like the banking files from the Swiss banks that somehow somebody got access to it and they sent it out to the media. And it seems that Malaysia is one of the highest contributors. We ranked 87, like you mentioned. And this is a bit of a shock for Malaysia, because we are only a developing country, and we actually hold a pretty high amount there in the Swiss bank.
It's true, and just a bit of background about Swiss, the leaking of the bank files. Swiss leaks reveal that some 30,000 accounts held almost, guess what, an accumulative 120 billion US dollar of assets between 2005 and 2007 in the HSBC's Swiss banks. As we all know, when it comes to banks that a lot of rich people would stash their money in, there are only 3 different places. One is in, Swiss banks. Another one, of course, are banks in Singapore. And of course, another famous one that is always mentioned in the press is the Cayman Islands.
With our 1MDB scandal as well that it's linked to.
That's another hot story. But it's just interesting that how the data taken from global banking group HSBC also show that the maximum amount of money associated with a client linked to Malaysia, just one client by the way, was 67.7 million US dollar.
Wow, one client with that much of money, and also from Malaysia.
Guess how much Prada bag you can buy, Gowri?
Probably a lot. And also to add perspective, it seems that Malaysia's GDP in 2007 was only about 7,200 US, while the World Bank statistics actually showed Malaysia in the top
7,000 US, as in like in million or in?
For per capita.
I see.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, and the World Bank statistics actually showed Malaysia in the top 10% in the same year, and that is kind of conflicting the figures itself, because it doesn't seem like we're making that much of money, but then we also have a lot of money to stash in all these rich banks around the world.
Well, I'm not surprised, because in another news last year reported that Malaysia was ranked number 5 in illicit outflows. This is actually an improvement, because 2 years before last year, which is in 2012, Malaysia was actually ranked number 2 behind China.
Wow, so number 2 to 5?
That means we have improved.
A little bit of improvement, but of course still quite bad for our reputation as Malaysia, as a developing country as well. Because number 5, we're talking in the world, not just in the region or in the Asian continent itself, or what? And
this actually accounted to 991.2 billion US dollar in record in illicit capital flown out of the developing, and this is a cumulative report, but I'm talking about in Malaysia is 48.93 billion US dollar in illicit outflow, and this is a lot of money if you think that Malaysia doesn't really make that much in terms of GDP.
And it seems that these illicit financial flows actually play a very important part, especially in terms of contributing to the damaging economic problem that the countries are facing, especially in Malaysia as a developing country. The economic part is something that is very, very delicate, something that you really want to look at. But with all these illicit financial flows, with the more money going out, and it will damage the progress of the country in the long run. And what's going to happen to our wawasan doplo and everything?
That's true. What's going to happen? But they did name one name that stood out in who were the account holders. Of course, there are only 63 people with accounts in of Malaysians with accounts in the Swiss arm of HSBC, the world's second largest bank. But the only Malaysian that was named was Sultanah Kulsum. She's the consort of Pahang Sultan Ahmad Shah. That means our monarchies, they are not just the monarchy. They are like walking money maker.
That's right.
And she's just a housewife, by the way.
Yeah, it says here that her designation was listed as a housewife, and of course she has her own client name and number, and this was from 1994 to 1997.
Gowri, I want to be a housewife in housewife make that much money?
Yeah, but you need to be like a sultan's housewife, not just anybody's housewife. And this data also showed how HSBC has actually helped thousands of its clients to hide money in secret accounts held by its private bank in Switzerland. So the HSBC is actually helping people to secretly move their money out of the country and into the banks.
That's what libertarian values should be, you know. I think banks are really adopting libertarianism very well because they are helping their clients to avoid tax, and tax is not good according to libertarianism.
Yes, and also this confidential files actually has a lot of other wealth details and also all their secret offshore companies linked to the accounts. But of course we do not have access to that, but it's reported by the ICIJ.
So it explains that the files show in the account to hold more than 100 billion in total from 12.6 billion held in the name of governmental institution. This is in relation with another country, which is Venezuela, under the late former leader Hugo Chavez. That's interesting.
Yes, since Venezuela is also under the light since ICIJ came up with these leaked files, and a lot of countries will have to start doing a lot of explanations to their people and to the relevant authorities.
Let's start with Malaysia. Another news that is also brewing very hotly, you know, in Southeast Asia would be regarding on the death penalty. As
yes, Arlene?
I mean, in Malaysia, the EU had been campaigning a lot in terms of trying to persuade government to do away with death penalty. In terms of death penalty, if I'm not mistaken, Malaysia, Singapore, and Indonesia actually have death penalty for drug smugglers and drug users. And the worst part is almost more than 80% of those who are behind bars and are being executed are those that are actually drug smugglers, not murderers.
Yes, and it seems Jokowi is one of the people who are very adamant about the death penalty, and he refused to budge, refused to go easy on all the people who have been arrested, and they are on the death row. Of course, we know that the Philippines has come forward to express their dissatisfaction, and Australia as well. And it seems Australia is pretty stern about what will happen next if Jokowi actually goes ahead and execute the people.
Actually, you know, Jokowi is in a very dangerous line because as much as he mentioned earlier last year especially that he wants to focus on, or he wants to put priority on his domestic leaning before going, you know, all hoo-ha over foreign policy. But he has to realize that Indonesia's appeal rely not just on his credibility but also on Indonesia's credibility on human rights. And of course, a lot of the countries in Southeast Asia has very questioning human rights issues. So for Jokowi to not being able to address things like death penalty is actually quite saddening. And even within domestically, a lot of the human rights activists are questioning whether Jokowi is fit to be president.
And it's also something that kind of like stopped abruptly, because when Jokowi was coming up, he was like the media favorite. He was everybody's favorite, and everyone had high hopes. Okay, here we have a president that's open-minded and liberal, and he's willing to go down to the grassroots and help people. And suddenly it all just came to a stop the moment he announced that he's sticking to the death penalty and he will execute what we have now, the so-called Bali 9 group for trafficking heroin from Indonesia into Australia. And he's just not budging from his decision.
Even when Prime Minister from Australia are begging him, in fact.
And that's why Tony Abbott is giving him a warning now, saying that if he goes ahead and execute all the 9 people, they will be facing some grave consequences from Australia's side. But we don't know in what way yet.
Nevertheless, I mean, relationship between Australia and Indonesia has never been that good. The recent flow of refugees from Indonesia, which Australia has been, reverting and sending it back to Indonesia, also has caused a huge constraint towards the foreign policy and the diplomatic relations between two countries. So this will only strain it more.
But then again, if you remember, just last week we were talking about how some Indonesians were actually abroad on the death row, and Jokowi actually appealed for those countries to set them free. But he will not do the same for people in his country, and that's a bit of a hypocrisy going on over there as well.
Or maybe he has good economic advisor, but not so good advisors when it comes to human rights issues. So Jokowi better be careful. Yeah, walking on a very tight rope there. We will take a short break. When we return, we have news from ASEAN countries.
ASEAN Dailies. First and foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hey, this is Arlene.
Hi, this is Gowri.
We are back again at our at our ASEAN Daily, and so Johor is having a bit of burning.
Wow, it actually looks pretty bad from the photos that we have here.
It is. Actually, it it was reported in Channel News Asia because right now the situation between Johor and Singapore is kind of hazy, and apparently the haze are not from Indonesia, it's from Johor, and the National Environmental Agency said that this is from Singapore, of course, said that its Malaysian counterpart confirmed that the bushfire last week has affected one of the cells at the landfill in Pasir Gudang in southern Johor.
And it seems that the cause was a fire at a landfill site in southern Johor, and the the authorities said that they were actually trying to put out the fire in the area and also to cap the burnt areas with soil to prevent the fires from spreading or from recurring. And they are still monitoring the situation closely, trying to prevent the fire from spreading to any place nearby.
And our lovely neighbor, Singapore, said that they will stand by and ready to assist the Malaysian authorities in regards to trying to put off the bushfires. And another report, just a quick update on Myanmar. So Myanmar's Aung San Suu Kyi said that we need a strong legal system so we can boost the economy. And I totally agree with her.
Right, and she also said that today's Myanmar's judicial system has been actually badly damaged by decades of military rule, because we know that they always have military interventions whenever.
Sounds like.
Sounds like?
No, just don't want to continue that.
Right, okay, and therefore she's worried that the credibility of Myanmar is not quite there yet, and this is not good for potential investors who are gonna come in. And of course, she said we can have a lot of plans, economic plans, policies, but without a change in the legal system itself, it's very hard to convince people, especially people outside the country.
Well, I would agree with Aung San Suu Kyi, but at the same time, if you look at Thailand,
right,
we just reported how even with a military regime, Thailand was able to boost its economic diplomatic relationship, for example, with Japan recently. So I don't know.
Well,
it depends.
Things are more, well, in Thailand, although they have the military rule, we know that General Prayut Chan-o-cha actually tries really hard to make his people happy. You know, he screened the World Cup for free. He did a lot of things. So maybe in that way, people somehow accepted him and his whole team and his government. But in Myanmar, things are a little different. It seems they are more in favor of Aung San Suu Kyi as opposed to President Thein Sein.
So I don't know. I think I agree with you. At the end of the day, how much you can please your people, that is more important. So anyway, just a bit of update on ASEAN as we always do. So LGUs to play a big role in ASEAN integration. So what exactly is LGU? It is the local government unit in the Philippines.
And it seems that they are of the opinion that LGUs is one of the key ways to drive the economic integration forward. And also one of the ways to do that is to invest in local products. That is, of course, something that's very important in every country, especially here in Malaysia. We always have an issue when it comes to local products itself.
Actually, you are spot on, because when we think about ASEAN Economic Community, we don't think about brands like Prada or whatever international brands. We think about our local brand. I always give the example of the makcik on the street selling nasi lemak, because that's the best example of how you can how the local community can actually or the local community can actually use or understand what ASEAN Economic Community is all about, and especially if you want to have a team like people-centered ASEAN.
And apart from that, of course, we know that SMEs are also another important aspect, because a lot of startups are coming up, and it's great when these startups are focusing on local products, because that is our strength at the end of the day. Every country, what is their advantage? What is so special about Malaysia, about Thailand, about Philippines? And that is what we want to focus on, so we can take it to the next level from there.
Sounds like a relationship in the making. Before we end our news today, just a bit of update on the Philippine Stock Exchange. Apparently, the Philippine Stock Exchange is not yet ready to link up with Southeast Asia bourses. This year, its CEO said that the participation it will only be possible in next year, 2016. Instead, it is seeking to clear hurdles and expand its products to match those offered by other equity markets in the region. So, in other words, I think when it comes to the real integration, it will only happen next year. This year is only like people trying to get the awareness, trying to understand how to improve the integration, and also to remove all the hurdles that is happening in this region.
And also to lay out the blueprint, the framework, and see how we can work from there. It's definitely a very long journey. It's a long process, but we will get there. Maybe just not this year.
Yeah, and companies need to position themselves well as well in ASEAN, so it might take time. So that's all for our news today. Thanks for listening.
And don't forget to like us on our Facebook page, follow us on Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and as always, listen to us on DurianASEAN.com.